Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tantra Tuesday. I'm Heidi, and I'm here with you, as always, each week at this time to share with you my best tips for getting the relationships that you crave. This is the deep in the soul kind of craving. And I take questions every week. This week's question is around how to have deep connections and stop these superficial connections. So, if you know someone in your life who seems to make connections every time they leave the house or every time they're on a Zoom meeting, and you're feeling a little jealous and wondering what their secret is, I'm going to share some of these secrets today and how to have deep, meaningful connections with people. Specifically, this question is about someone that you're attracted to. So I want to explore that in a bit of detail. And I don't know about you, but the first thing that we tend to do when we're talking to someone, whether that's in person or whether that's in a virtual setting, and we feel attracted to that person, we tend to do a few things. Firstly, we tend to tighten up and stop breathing. We tend to clench our stomach, and we tend to start talking really fast. If you recognize any of these behaviors, then today's talk is absolutely for you. And if you don't recognize them, there's a chance that you might be doing them anyways. These are unconscious behaviors, which means that we don't even realize we're doing them. But a good test is to check in with yourself after you leave an interaction and see if you're feeling more or less relaxed. See if you're feeling more at home in your body or a little bit more spacey and up here in your head bubble, which I'm going to talk about in this video. So I've got 3 tips for you to help you to say goodbye forever to superficial connections. I want to welcome you on on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. If you're watching later, you can catch all of my library of videos at Shamaya Tantra on YouTube. You can just search that on YouTube. And of course, you can catch them live with me on Facebook and Instagram. So I would love to see who's here today. Give me a hello so I can see you in the feed. And if you've got a question, if you want to be the person who gets their top of mind topic discussed on Tantra Tuesday, send me a DM or you can make a post on the Facebook page. And if I don't get you in right away, then rest assured I'll put you in the queue for a future video. All right, let's get back to it. So, my top 3 tips to say goodbye to superficial connection and have that deep, meaningful interaction with people on the daily. All right, so my first number 1 tip is get out of your head bubble. I worked with a coach who explained the head bubble to me, and it was shocking how, after I did a video or after I had a conversation, I would check in with where my awareness was, like where am I existing? And it was always up here in this head bubble. And a good way to see, and this is like a detective move, to see if you're in the head bubble is check out the tone of your voice. We tend to actually raise our voice when we're in our head bubble and we tend to talk faster. So, what does it mean when we're in our head bubble? Well, this means that first and foremost, we're disconnected from our body. We're connecting with that person at the level of our mind. And our mind is kind of like a Rolodex of all the past experiences, all of the ones that went badly, especially because of our negative confirmation bias. And it's just spinning through these experiences as we're talking to someone. And it's giving us these automatic reactions, which means that we're operating at a very superficial level with the person in front of us. So if we're in our head bubble, we're likely to share our elevator pitch, our elevator spiel, as I like to call it. Oh, this is what I do, I'm from this place, and kind of that boring old story, kind of like your personal resume, because it's here, it's up there in your file, nice and handy. We tend to not really deeply connect with our emotions when we're in our head bubble. And because we're disconnected from our body, there's a whole realm of potential connection that we're missing. So, to get out of our head bubble, we need to bring our attention into our body. And I'm going to talk about that in my next tip. So, tip number 2 is something that might not come naturally, something you might not think is connected to having deep connections with people, but it's about our bellies. If you watch a baby breathing, their belly just blossoms outward on the exhale and then comes back on the inhale. They have this doubling of size of their belly every time they breathe. If you've been on this planet and read a few fashion magazines, you probably adopted a strategy that looks something like holding your belly as you breathe, sucking your belly in. I used to be obsessed with having a flat stomach, and like whenever I was out in public, I would just suck my whole belly in, and it was so uncomfortable. Fortunately, now I've embraced the fact that a belly is a sign of fertility and virility and life and lusciousness. And there's different tantric exercises that we can do using our bellies as erogenous erotic zones. So you can experience those in my workshops or in my private coachings. So, what do we want to do with our belly to get rid of and say goodbye to superficial connection? Oh, we want to relax them first and foremost. We want to be checking in with our belly as we're talking to someone and just noticing if we're holding it tightly or if we're relaxing it. You can actually put your hands on your belly, especially if this is a virtual meeting and maybe they can't even see your belly. You can put it on there just as a reminder to relax this area, to bring some softness. And a soft belly is like a gateway to connection. It's like a surrendering and an instant vial of trust. If I am going into an interaction with my whole belly tensed, it's like I'm ready for combat. It's like my whole body's hormonal and chemical systems are ready for something, are ready for some kind of adversarial event. And that's the opposite of what we want when we want to connect with someone deeply. So, all these tips are going to help you to have those kind of spiritual connections that you're craving, where you feel like, wow, I really resonated with that person. Like, we really met in that place. So, the belly is an important tool to help us come down out of our mind bubble, down into our body. And that's going to open up a whole nother dimension of connecting, because there's a emptiness, there's this sort of tinny quality to connecting with someone only through your mind, only through your head bubble. It's not even you, it's the collection of most dominant fears that are running through your head most of the time. Your body allows you to connect with them in a fresh moment, in a way that's about the present moment and not about what happened to you the last 10 times you had a conversation, or not about the last 10 things that traumatized you in your last relationship. The body has this miraculous ability to be right here, right now. And right here in the present moment is where the deepest kind of connection happens. So that's the second tip for having deep conversations and connections, is to focus on relaxing our belly while we're talking to them. And this is a practice. It takes time, but try it out. Do it as an experiment and see what happens to the depth of your connection. The third tip for saying goodbye to superficial connections is to make friends with silence. This is an advanced technique because it's difficult. We're trained and conditioned that we need to stuff words into every little space that they can in a conversation. But there's something very vulnerable and intimate about allowing a moment or two of silence. It's kind of like putting up a sign that says, I trust you. If we're so desperate to fill every moment, it's like we're playing this game of ping pong. Again, it's like we're in this combative situation with the person in front of us. And that keeps us up here at this superficial level. So, in order to raise our sign of I trust you, we can allow a few spaces of silence in the conversation. I once had a phone conversation with someone who I didn't really know at all. I had just met them once. And I was really playing with this idea of silence at the time and seeing how far I could take it and what might happen. And so when he said something, and it wasn't a direct question, it kind of completed his thought. And so I thought, why don't I take this opportunity right now and just say nothing? And so I said nothing. And he said nothing. And I said nothing. And he said nothing. And I felt like we were going on this intimacy of, or this marathon of trust, of just allowing that space to continue being there, of trusting the other person enough to not judge us for not saying anything, trusting them enough to not judge us for not having something intelligent to say, and all of the mind stories that come in that moment of silence, you know. It's like, oh, I am not intelligent. Oh, I'm not responsive. Oh, I'm not a good conversationalist. And the Rolodex goes through all of these fears in that moment. But both of us managed to ward off the fears and continue sitting. And it was about a minute that we sat there in complete silence. And I will confess to you that it was me who broke the silence. I felt like we'd done well. We could pat ourselves on the back. And I broke the silence with a compliment and said to him, wow, I have never experienced someone who could hold silence that long. And it seems like nothing, but this experiment in silence with this individual created such a bond between us. We felt like we had experienced something together, like we could trust each other on a deep level that goes beyond the mind, but right into the cellular structure of the body. There's a body trust that was created between us. And we ended up having a beautiful friendship that has existed to this day. And I attribute a big part of the depth of our friendship to that experience, to that offering up of trust mutually. If you are in person or if you are on a Zoom meeting, there's a bonus to this. You can go even deeper. And this is one of those things like a cold shower. Like you don't want to do it, but if you do it, it can transform your life. So the bonus challenge for making friends with silence is to add eye contact. If you watch my videos regularly, you know I'm a huge fan of eye contact. It is like a superpower in our, not just our interactions, but in our sex life and in our personal development life. So if you can be silent and look into someone's eyes, you can fall in love. You can feel like you discovered a soulmate. You can have an orgasm. These are just some of the things that are possible. Because you know, don't you find that the level of risk that you take or the amount that you step outside your comfort zone correlates with the magic and the newness? I don't know about you, but I've never had one of those really memorable moments when I was stuck safely within the confines of my comfort zone. Whenever I do something that feels a little bit edgy, not too edgy, we want to take emotional risks, intelligent emotional risks. But when we learn how to take intelligent emotional risks and we step the appropriate amount outside of our comfort zone, things that we couldn't have imagined happen. That's when you find the people who are capable of real connection. If somebody can meet you in a meeting like that, you know they've got depth. You know that they're probably going to be a good tantric partner. You know that they're probably going to be someone you can talk to about your spiritual path. They've done enough work on themselves to be able to hold their center in that situation. So if you want to take this to the next level, try having a moment of silence while looking into someone's eyes. It can be a little bit like Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole. But check it out, see what you think. Those are my top 3 tips for having no more superficial conversations. So thank you for the question today. I look forward to addressing your questions again next week. I have a couple of spots available for my King of Hearts coaching program. So if you identify as a man and want to learn how to connect your spirit and your sex and show up in relationship and attract the person that you really, really want to be with on a physical, emotional, mental, spiritual level, then hop on a call with me and I can show you how that all works. Thanks again. You can catch the replay on YouTube, and I will see you all next week. Have a beautiful week. Stay strong, and you know how to find me. info@shamayatantra.com or here on Facebook or Instagram. See you soon. Mm-hmm.